Good.
All right. So then I'm going to
I'm
share.
starting to get nervous.
That's fine. Okay, can you see my screen?
Sure.
Good. Okay. So that's the topic. We are going to talk how to correct your students' mistakes today. That's it. So since we all have some issues with that, we will move to the next slide and first talk about types of errors. So what kind of errors we can have with our students. There are basically three main types of errors. So the first one is a slip, as we can see in the picture. It's just not intended mistake, or maybe it's just a mistake that students, well, they know this material, they know it, they've done lots of exercise, but still they do it. For example, my advanced student sometimes makes mistake and says she like it. And well, it's not like I can
present simple, yes, and without auxiliary verbs, yes, all the time.
That's not like we have to study it all again now, no way. And it's not, but okay, it happens. And to be honest, that's normal, because even I can make such a mistake, maybe. If I'm nervous, if I'm trying to speak fast, I sometimes make some stupid mistakes, I think even in Russian, so I think it's no problem at all. So if there is a student who is making this kind of mistakes, maybe, what do you think should we do?
We just need to pay their attention. It's like, don't you forget that we use he, she, it, у глагола хвост торчит. Did you forget about that? What did you say? What did you say?
Yeah,
Sometimes
it's possible, but it's a good idea. But sometimes it's better just to ignore it, because imagine if it depends. If it's very, very often, like really often, then we should pay attention. But if it's just once in a blue moon, I don't know, all of a sudden your student made this mistake, and before that they were not making this mistake, maybe it's better to just ignore it. Because if we just correct everything, it would be like, no, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad, and it's a disaster.
Yes, yes.
Then the next type of mistakes is attempts. As we can see, the person is very small and the stone is very big. So it means that the student, whose level is very low, is trying to say something very difficult. For example, the student who is a beginner or low elementary is trying to say something, but he heard somewhere maybe passive. So he can't use passive.
I hate that. Yes.
Yes, so they try to make it, but of course they fail. They haven't studied it. What do you think? Should we correct this mistake?
As you said yesterday, no.
Sorry?
As you said yesterday, no. Should ignore it.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe we can correct it, but not pay too much attention. Just say it quickly, like, okay, it should be like that. But I don't think the student will remember, so it has no sense. Maybe ignore it. And later we will study it. And then we have normal mistakes, mistakes that we need to correct. There are actually also two types of them. I didn't say it yesterday. The normal mistakes, for example, we are studying present perfect and the student is struggling, and even though we did lots of exercise, still the student makes mistakes. Or it can be another thing. It can be a fossilized mistake, which means that it's a mistake like a habit. So the student maybe learned present simple some time ago, but still makes the same mistakes again and again. It can be not only about grammar, about whatever. For example, I have a student who always, like every lesson, tries to say the word great, and he says greet. And that's it. So you can't do anything but that. And I keep correcting him, but it doesn't help. So it's a mistake like a habit. You know, it was like put in his brain with the hammer some time ago, and now we can't do anything.
Normally they say, I'm sorry. They say just immediately this, I'm sorry, I forget, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's true. So we will talk about this type of mistakes too. Like maybe there's something we can do. And to put it short, when to correct mistakes, and we will look at this brief thing. So we have 2 points here. Accuracy, it's like correct speaking. By the way, I'm only talking about speaking and not writing today. So like we want our student to speak correctly. When do we want this? Maybe when we started studying something, we presented new vocab or new grammar, and we do some exercise, and we want our student to make it 100% right. So this is like correct speaking, accuracy. And another point of speaking is fluency, free speaking. It's like our student doesn't make pauses or think too much. It's like he tries to speak a little bit freer. So if we do just some exercise and we just started the topic, maybe we want to focus on accuracy. But if we just do some kind of warm-up or, I don't know, additional speaking, just to improve their speaking in general, that's about fluency. And these are two types of activities that require different types of correcting. What do you think if we focused on accuracy? So, for example, we just studied today present perfect, and now we ask our student to make sentences. Will we correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And what about fluency? For example, you have a warming up activity, or like you start, hello, how are you? I'm good. I go to the cinema yesterday. Should we correct it here?
If it's about topic from the last lesson, maybe later after he finished.
And why not immediately? Why later?
Because we want them to speak fluently.
Good.
to feel free. Yes, the conversation.
What if our student like tries to tell us what he did yesterday and makes lots of mistakes, and we correct every mistake immediately? What will happen? What might happen?
He will stop.
Yes.
And next lesson will answer like, oh, that was okay. That was great.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, you've got the point. So that's the main thing. If we just practice for fluency, like just a conversation or some kind of speaking activity, like, okay, tell me about your holiday. We should not say like, okay, good, but you should say this, but you should say that. You should just react like normally, like in conversation. If you want to correct something, as Julia said correctly, you can do it later. So when he finishes or she finishes, we can say, that was a great story, you did good job. Let's have a look and then just talk about, do you think like all mistakes or some mistakes?
Some
And what kind of mistakes would you choose, and what kind of mistakes you would avoid correcting?
If it's familiar topic, we will correct. If it's something new.
Good job. Yeah, that's right. Or we can do a brief, immediate correction. Maybe if you watched our meeting, I already said something about this. It's like, for example, if it's something simple, you can simply show it like this. Yeah, so quickly, brief. Yes. So you like cinema. And yeah, she likes cinema. You see, it takes a few seconds. Or what I personally love, it's like, oh, I go to the cinema yesterday. And I say, oh, really? Fast. And yeah, I went. So it's very immediate, like, I go, I went. So very fast. For this, we can use some writing or gestures, so super fast. Or you can just avoid correcting, so not correct at all, just to not make the student scared. Because if you just bombard the student with
if it's really scary, to them to speak, yes, I can correct them.
Yeah, so that's answer to your question, Julia. If you have if you talk for fluency, don't even ask your student, just use some of these techniques. And if we talk about accuracy, like we want to focus on accuracy, we want our student to speak correctly. We just studied it, so we want it right now to be correct. And as you said, we should correct it. We can do focused, immediate correction. Like, for example, we just studied present perfect and the student says, oh, she has wrote. and we can correct it and say immediately that it's not wrote, written, or use some other options, but only, you see, focused. So we don't correct something different, something, I don't know, abstract from another part of the sentence. We only focused on what we just studied. Or, as you said, we can correct it later, so like still listen and then maybe correct, or we can avoid if we want. It's possible sometimes. Okay, the next question is how to correct, because we now understand that it's better to correct either brief and right now or later, or not at all, but how to correct. So maybe you can tell me, what kind of ways do you use to correct?
Oh.
What kind of correction?
So how do you correct a student? Imagine your student says, oh, she has wrote a letter. What will you say?
I'm sorry, present perfect, or something like this.
Good. What else?
Oh, you know, I show my when I show my screen, I have a document when I write not only words but all the most important words of this lesson, and I write down some corrections, the most important too. So if it is like present simple or past simple, I write his phrase, for example, my student's phrase, and the correct form. I like this when it's visualization.
Yeah.
It's easier to understand and to remember, and after lesson he could repeat it.
Yeah, and we can ask where's the difference and where did you make the mistake?
Yeah. Yeah, so we can give the correct answer, or we can ask a student to
choose where is the correct sentence, something like this. Or if he didn't really get it, we can also repeat and elicit some grammar sentences, some grammar constructions from the last lesson.
Yeah, well, okay, I think you know a lot. So let's move to this slide and see some other ways. I'm sure you're familiar with most of them. So how can we correct? First, we can say simply, there is an error. Can you find an error? So you see, it's more like eliciting. So we don't say that she has wrote is a mistake. No, we can say there is an error. So the student has to think where. Also, you can say, can you find an error? Can you find a mistake? There's something wrong. Yeah, and the student has to think. It's good because it helps our student to think, not just to, we don't just give it, we make our student think. Then we can use facial expressions like, or something like, are you sure? It's difficult a little bit. Also, I noticed that sometimes students speak and they don't look at you. They, look at the sky. So if you use a facial expression, maybe they will not notice. But with some students who look at you, it will work. Do you use facial expressions?
I like the first one because there is a little suspense, like you can be a detective. There is can you notice that?
Yeah. So that's one thing. Or you can use a gesture, as I showed you before, like past. Or there's also like kind of finger correction, like you show a sentence like she has wrote a letter. And you just show your finger. I don't use it much, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of it, but I know some teachers who do it. Or they simply, like if somebody says she has wrote a letter, you say, but it's not very easy. So you need to teach your student to understand what you mean. Because if you first time show it like this, they will be like, what are you talking about? So you have to explain and show it many times. But if you use it more than once, at some point they will understand that their mistake is here. So it works like that. Or as I told you, I told it some time ago that I saw one teacher who wrote S, the famous S that I have in my notebook here on the palm, and she was just showing it. She was sitting like that, She likes, and here was the S with a marker. So why not? It's a good idea. And also, you know, what I like about it is that it's creative, so maybe it's more memorable for a student rather than just S. Okay. Do you know any other gestures, or do you personally use gestures?
To correct mistakes.
It's so natural sometimes. I don't notice it, I suppose.
Okay. No, maybe you have some more ideas.
I use it only if I really want to pay attention, because it's really, sometimes it's really difficult with online lessons, because they really concentrate on the screen, and sometimes they don't see, and it's like,
Yeah,
you can try, but yes,
but it depends.
it's not really clear.
Yeah, I agree. It works better with offline classes, but why not? If I saw some teachers, for example, they don't share the screen all the time, and at some point the student has a big face of the teacher, so then it would work. Repeat sentence up to an error. It means like she has wrote a letter. She has, and you like give a student a chance to correct. Do you use this technique? Yeah, I think it's very
like echo.
Yeah, almost, but not. You see, you don't say she has written. You say she has. You see, up to an error. So you don't say an error. And then, like, for example, oh, my mother likes cinema. Your mother. And then the student understands that there is a mistake and has a chance to correct himself. Maybe he doesn't understand why there is a mistake, so he has to think first. Or you can echo sentence with changed intonation. For example, my mom likes cinema. Your mom likes cinema? But it's a little bit ambiguous, because the student might think that, yes, my mom likes cinema. Like not that there is a mistake, but that you are just surprised as a person. So it's a little bit tricky.
Your mom like cinema? Like?
Yeah.
Are you sure that she likes?
That's better. That's better. Then it will work, I'm sure. So it's a good idea to do this. Or you can also say, your mom, your mom do what? Or she has done what? Something like that. It could work too. Or, well, it's the next one. You can ask a question. You did what? Or just, excuse me? Excuse me? What do you mean by that? Sorry? Pardon? Are you sure, as you said? Yeah, it's a good idea. Or you can say tense. So the student has to think about the tense, or simply past. Or like, I go to the cinema yesterday. Present. Yeah. Do you use this technique?
Yes.
Well, it also is quite good because it gives the student some food for thought to understand. Or as Alina said, you can write sentence for discussion. So you can simply write it on Google Doc or whatever, Word doc, and ask a student, like, do you think it's correct? And the student can think, look at it. It's good because it's visual. So, or you can simply correct it. But okay. Or the last thing that I wrote here is you just can give a correct answer. For example, okay, but you should say she went to the cinema. Or yes, but you need to use past simple. So which
if
of
you
these?
Give up,
Yeah,
you can do this. If you give up.
Yeah. What do you think? Which of these techniques, which of them is the most frequently used by teachers in general? Because there was a study actually, and they studied like which technique teachers use the most frequent.
Echo sentence.
Okay, it's also, but it's not the most popular.
Or write sentence.
No.
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 No. Maybe usual teacher in school says like you should say.
Yes, but the problem is that it's not only the usual teacher in school. I saw many teachers who teach on Skype, online, and still many teachers use this. Like it's the most popular. And I was also watching some lessons of the teachers in Guru, and I saw that many teachers still use "you should say," but you have to say, it's not correct, say this. It's just like 90% of all the mistake correction is this. And then there was the study which said which of these things is the least useful for a student. What do you think? Which one?
Mm-hmm.
Which of this is the least useful?
This one?
Yes.
The correct answer?
Yes. So it's the most popular among teachers and the least useful for students. It's a disaster. So we have to pay super attention that we use different things. And actually this study said that the most useful is when you use different, not just one, but maybe several. And especially, for example, if the student makes mistakes many times and again, the best way is to change the way of correction. So if you were always using one thing, try just to use another. Maybe it will help. I'm not sure how it works with students in real life. It's just a study, but I think it will work. Yes.
And also, for example, if I ask, like, where is the error? I take my time to think how I will explain if he will not get it, and I can like think in which way I will show it. So that's
that's also a great idea to get some time and to give more like things for students to do. Like they should work, not teachers actually.
Maybe I will search a picture or something like this if it's about vocabulary.
That sounds great. That's really good. You can also use some other things apart from this. These are just the most frequent. You can just simply give a rule, or you can just say, try again, or nearly, you're almost there. Try again. But I think it's a little bit ambiguous, and students prefer to kind of more or less understand, like there is a mistake, or where exactly there is a mistake. Sometimes they get frustrated when the sentence was too long, for example. All right, and so here we've got some practice. So we have a mistake and the level of the student. So which of these will you use here? She goes to the cinema yesterday.
The verb.
Okay, or
with a gesture, or she what?
Good. Yes, you can do this. If you have I never was in Paris and it's like beginner, low, elementary.
Nothing.
Yeah. I think if you say I have never been to Paris, they will be
it's already great.
Yes, exactly. Actually, you see, if a person comes to London and says I never was in Paris, will they understand him? Yes, so I think
yes,
that's enough. If it's a mistake that like you can't understand what the person says, yes, maybe you should correct. But like this, it's good. Okay, this I think you heard a lot. I am agree.
It's a sleep mistake. Yes, we need to ignore it. Ignore it in upper intermediates.
No,
if it's upper intermediate, I think we should notice, but I don't know how.
Okay, just a quick thing.
What did you say?
Slip, it's when it's accidental. For example, the student always said, I agree all the time, I agree. And one day they say, I am agree. So, okay, it's a slip, we can avoid it. Just, but if the student always says, I am agree, and it's upper intermediate, then it's not a slip.
Maybe write this sentence and say what's could you correct it? Yeah, what's wrong?
Yeah, that's good. I would also suggest, you know, like put a cross on it. For example, if I can do it, wait, I can't. So like just, I don't know, you can't see my screen anymore, or can you?
No.
No, sorry.
Yeah, we understand. Cross.
Yeah, I wanted to turn as, yeah, just like put a cross on M, maybe red, like, attention, no, yes. It would be very good if you visualize it. Yeah, so like very visual. You just say not I am agree, but I agree. Like, it's not like you really hear lots of difference. Maybe it's not so noticeable. Well, actually, I've had this thing also for until I was advanced. I was always saying I am agree, and I didn't even know because nobody corrected me. It was such a shame. I remember I was talking to so many foreigners, never had the person corrected me. It was, yeah, a disaster. But actually once another way is maybe not to say about this person, but one day you can simply tell some embarrassing story. For example, I think I watched a video like top 10 stupid mistakes Russian make. And I saw this and I said, oh gosh, I was making this mistake for so long, nobody told me. And I felt so embarrassed that each time I was saying it, I was like, no, I'm not going to say I agree. So maybe sometimes some emotions are also good. But you should not laugh at your student. It can be painful for them. It can be unpleasant. But if you kind of just somehow send a funny video, for example, I think it would work. The rain was very strong.
I think it's fine for a pre-intermediate.
Well, it could
Maybe
be.
not.
And if you want to correct it?
No, give the correct answer. Maybe here.
Yeah, probably because it's very difficult to use a gesture or something. Well, we don't know. Maybe we can try to say the rain was very, very, and say that the rain can't be strong. The rain can be, and the student might say, oh, heavy. Yeah, you've got the point. Or just give the correct answer. Because probably they just don't know. Okay, and the last one is they made a divorce, intermediate.
Maybe something like, do you remember they divorced?
Good, I love this technique. Yeah, that's great. I would also use it. And that's the best. They a divorce, like yeah. Or we can say, what do we do with a divorce? We can divorce, yeah, something like that. Well, it's basically what you just said. So perfect. Right, and then I wanted to tell you what else you can do with mistakes, because if your student makes mistakes, it's not just that you correct them or not, you can use them for further practice. I don't know if you actually do it. You can collect errors for further practice. So what I usually do, and what I really recommend you to do, is to write all mistakes that you hear that your student makes. Even if you don't correct them, just keep, like you can have a piece of paper and write all mistakes of this exact student. So how you just write them, when, all the time. Like maybe you don't correct these mistakes, but for future you will know that, okay, this is something my student doesn't know. Or here, my student often makes mistakes. So maybe we should revise that topic. Or maybe we should study this topic. And actually, then maybe if your student, for example, didn't know about some vocab, and you understand that this person just doesn't know, you can come to the next lesson and say, you know, actually show it. I've been collecting your mistakes. Here they are. And, and I designed an exercise for you to work on your mistakes. I think the student will really appreciate that you care so much. That it's not just, oh, let's study food. It's useful. No, it's your mistake. It's your weak point. I think it's very, very good, and students really appreciate it. And they don't know that you keep all these records, and it's good. Also, another thing, to make it softer, you can just collect the mistakes, and then as a warm-up exercise, I absolutely love using some kind of gap sentences. I didn't write it here, but I can. For example, if the student makes mistake, well, she go to Paris yesterday. We can write something like, okay, as a warm-up, we prepare some sentences and we write something like this, to the cinema. Well, of course, you don't have one sentence. You prepare like 10 sentences and say, okay, it's our warm-up activity. Let's try to do the quiz. And the student thinks that it's just a quiz, but in fact, it's about his mistakes. And they
Right.
But pay attention that you like attempts that you haven't studied yet. Only what you have studied, and the student still makes mistakes. Because if you put attempts, it will be
Hello.
on.
Алло.
Алло.
Yeah.
Меня все прерывают. Yes, she's here. Yeah.
Back. So there was.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Problem with my internet again. Okay. Where did I stop? Because I was talking and then I realized you didn't hear me anymore.
But something like that.
The quiz. Yes, the quiz.
Yeah, so you can write a quiz like 10 sentences or 5 sentences, but pay attention and give only that vocabulary or grammar that you have already studied. Because if you give something that student doesn't know, they will not do it, and that's the end. It will be too long and difficult. But if it's something you studied and students still make, yes, it's a good idea. Like also, as I said, those post-slide mistakes that student always makes all the time. It's good to practice like some kind of quizzes at the beginning of the lesson. And talking about post-slide mistake, it's the last thing we're going to talk about. It's the kind of mistakes that students always do, all the time. The student always says, I am agree. The student always says great instead of great. Do you know any other examples? What do your students make? Some mistakes, like a habit, like they always do this.
Student every time said like, this is instead of this, or instead of it is, instead of, like, just habit in all sentences. This is a dog, I don't know, is barking now, or barking now, something like that. But this is, you don't need to say this.
Yeah, okay.
But he says.
Any other mistakes? They're actually.
They forget to change the verb to be when they ask questions.
Yes.
Like he is. They use just intonation. What else? With the pronunciation, there are a lot, but
yes,
so
there are a lot.
Speak about the pronunciation.
Yes. Also, sometimes they say do mistakes instead of make mistakes. You study it, and they still say do mistakes all the time. And it seems like, oh, I'm giving up. I can't do anything anymore. It's just a disaster. So what can we do with mistakes like this? Like all the time. I tried to correct like this. I tried to correct like that. We did lots of exercises, and still he can't understand it. What can we do?
3, maybe repeat it several times, like 3 minutes. Different sentences with the same mistake, like drilling.
Okay.
Yes, there is an exercise, but it's for as homework, like echo exercise. You said, if you, for
Yeah.
example, it is, I went to the cinema yesterday, yes, and she says like, I go to the cinema yesterday. She need to say, I went to the cinema. I went to the cinema yesterday. I went to the cinema yesterday with my friends, and so on, so
Right.
on, bigger and bigger.
Wow.
That's a great technique. I love it so much. Thank you so much for sharing. That's really great. It's like a very good drill. Like you make it bigger, bigger, as big as you can, as long as you can. Yeah, that's great. That's a good idea. Or, for example, you can, well, I think it's like, you have to isolation. You have to isolate these mistakes, so not practice everything, only this. Maybe you should explain first. For example, if it's the student who always says, I am agree, maybe the student just doesn't know, so you have to explain. And as Alina said, you have to drill in different way. Repeat, make it bigger, make it shorter, make it longer. Or you can say also like, she went to the cinema, or she went to the museum, or she went, and we just practice this went, but still with different things. Or if it's about the verb to be, you can practice like, oh, I am a teacher, you, and the student says, you are a teacher, she is a teacher, like just drilling like this. Yeah, it works pretty well. And also it's good to give something like that for homework. For example, my student who always says greet instead of great, I constantly send him a link. I started sending him a link with the online dictionary where he can listen to this word, because it seems like he forgets all the time. And you know, the last few lessons he started saying great, not great, finally. I was very happy. So it works if you just use these, again, mistakes in homework. But sometimes we have to just say, okay, nobody's perfect, and sometimes there's a mistake we can't fix. But it's better to try to fix it. And if you've tried everything, then you can give up. So do you have any mistakes? Do you have any questions?
Oh, yes.
Or
It's not for speaking, but when you in WhatsApp, when you see some mistakes, should we correct them? It's just like on daily basis texting, like, or asking when students ask you something in WhatsApp in English. Should we correct it?
oh, well, yeah, I think if they ask you particularly and ask you to correct something, I think you should. You mean, no, I mean, yeah, I got
like,
it.
where our next lesson, for example,
Yes.
stuff like that.
Yes, I think it's better to kind of not correct them. Well, that's my point of view. Not correct them because because then they will think that, okay, I always write with mistakes, I'll write in Russian. So it's better not to correct them and keep communication, but notice this mistake and maybe give it in time some kind of exercise, like not say that, oh, I saw you made a mistake. No, just somehow practice it during the lesson, and it would be nice. Maybe you should practice writing a note to a teacher or a question to a teacher. You know, like if you know the Cambridge key exam, it has lots of sentences like this, like sorry, not sentences, tasks, like write a note, like I can't come, sorry teacher, I can't come, I will do my homework, or something like that. Practice writing it. And that's it. But if it's a natural conversation, I wouldn't correct it, to not discourage. And the same about writing. if you have a long writing, like the student needed to write some report or email, I would only correct main mistakes like that you've been talking about. But if you just correct everything and it's like all full of mistakes, it's pretty discouraging.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some students.
Thank you.
You should.
Thank you.
Sorry. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Yes.
Oh, there was some problem. So do you have any more questions about that?
No.
No,
Oh, that's
okay,
fine.
then we might finish for today. And if you have some more, you can always write to me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I hope it
Thank
was
you very
useful.
much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.